Thank you for having us this morning. I'm John Palmer with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the Jacksonville District Regulatory Division, and I'm housed in the COCO field office. And we get to start you off this morning. I guess the first thing would be introductions. With us today, I have the Chief of the COCO section, Irene Sadowski, and project managers Corey Meyer and Bev Barta. Brandon Conroy couldn't be with us today, and we also have an RPA office assistant, Francella Martin, down in that office. If you want to write down our emails, go ahead. So if you'd like a copy of this presentation at the, afterwards, I mean, not right afterwards, but we'll get that PDF'd and sent out to you. Just send me an email, and I think Kelly has all that information as well, and she can get that to you, get it back to us, so we can, again, try and answer all your questions. She pretty much took care of everything, so that was done. No, it's too early in the morning for that, I guess. All right, a couple questions I need to ask just so I know who I'm talking to. Did anybody see the game last night? Nobody saw the game. All right, so no football questions. All right, mark that off. All right, how many are acquainted with the Corps permit process? It's a little exercise in the morning, get the blood flowing. How many hope to glean something useful or some useful information from this? How many have a lot of questions as to why do we even have to get a Corps permit? Oh, good. No, all right, how many even know, or how many in this category, what is a Corps permit? No. I deal with some of those. So, this is the agenda that I got. We're going to run through everything. Like Kelly said, most of this stuff is deals with, we're going to deal with JAXPO, permit instruments, talk about some seagrasses, SPGP, and real estate navigation, the issues that you guys typically will have to deal with. So just to start, why is the Corps even involved in this stuff? So we deal with, this is our regulatory authorities. We deal under Section 10 of the Rivers and Harbors Act. So it's any work, structure, in, over, under the waters of the U.S. That includes docks, includes boat ramps, marinas. If it's Section 10 and you're doing even directional drilling underneath the channel or something, that still requires, all that requires a permit, even though you may not have in-water impacts, it's under the water. We also deal with Section 404 of the Clean Water Act, and that has to deal with dredge and fill materials placed in or dredged out of waters of the U.S. And then Section 103 of the Marine Protection, Research, and Sanctuaries Act, and PERSA as we call it, because we love to deal with acronyms for everything. And that's ocean disposal of dredged material. How many deal with like ocean dredging or anything like that, or dredging and dumping? Okay. All right, our goals are to protect navigation and prevent obstructions in the nation's waters, protect the nation's aquatic environments, including wetlands, enhance the efficiency of administering the regulatory program, and provide fair and reasonable decisions. Some of you may not feel that they are fair and reasonable. We'll work to see what some of the problems are and try and get there. Our area of responsibility for the COCO section is this area here. We cover 6 counties, over 6,000 square miles. It's Volusia, Brevard, Indian River, Seminole, Osceola, and Orange County. That's for our office. How many are you located in our AOR? Okay, almost half. And how about Panhandle? We have any Panhandles? Okay, thank you for coming that long way there. How about South? Miami. Then another, okay. And West Coast? Gotcha, all right, I think we got everybody covered. Obviously, we have field offices in each of your areas, and so if there are specific questions for specific species that only occur in those areas, if you're working with Gulf sturgeon, for example, in the Panhandle, that might be different than, or on the West Coast, that we don't have on our side that we don't ever deal with. Just get in touch with your Corps office and that. And
so why do they repeatedly ask if we're subject to it?
I'm sorry, what?
Why do they repeatedly ask if we're subject to it? The West Coast does not have Johnson seagrass.
Oh, for Johnson's? They're asking for Johnson's?
Constantly. Every application, we have to write that it does not exist in this area.
I don't have all the answers. Well, all right, let me start the presentation again. I don't have all the answers, but we can look into that, and get back with you if you have specific questions, and we'll talk with, is that the Tampa office you're dealing with for that, or?
Myers.
Fort Myers, okay. So, like I said, there's the full Jacksonville district and the area offices that you can contact. Like I said, I'll get this slide out, and I'm sure you already have their information. You can get it online. You go to the Jacksonville website and go down to the source book, and all this information is in there. So again, our jurisdiction, we're talking about Section 10. I'll just be brief on this. Section 10 versus Section 404. Section 10, we're going to look at the mean high water line in tidal situations, ordinary high and freshwater situations, and then the high tide line or the wetlands line for Section 404 jurisdiction. So it's a little wider where we're looking at the dredge and fill, and Section 10 we're looking more at the structures. So some of the permits the minor permits that you've probably gotten already are nationwide permit. Everybody familiar with the nationwide permit program? Nationwide permits, you probably get a 3 for maintenance, which is repair and replacement, typically for seawalls, docks, and whatever kind of structure you may have. I'm not going to read everything on the slide. I'm sure you guys know this stuff. I'll just hit on them. Nationwide 13 is for shoreline stabilization projects, whether it's a seawall or riprap or mats or whatever that you're putting in. And then the 35 is for the maintenance dredging aspect of things. As when you come in for an application, I'm trying to help inform that you have, okay, these are the options you have to go through. Now when you may meet with them, you may call your local office, and we can go over in depth more what permit that you're going to be required to get. Depends on the project circumstances. Some of the regional general permits you get, the RGB 20 and the 33. The 20s for the single-family homes, covers all that. If you don't, how many are doing a lot of single-family home docks? Okay, get it across here. So that's, so you're getting a lot of 20s. And 33s are for private multifamily and government piers. Specific limitations on those, though. You can't have more than 5 slips, and it's under 1,000 square feet, so a lot of time those get kicked out to larger permits, which are letters of permission or a regular standard permit. So most of your marinas are going to fall into that kind of that threshold. I'll point this out again later, but this one here, they're replacing a boat ramp, and they got their turbidity barrier nice and piled up on the shore over here. And it's like,
It doesn't get dirty that way.
So some of the issues that we're going to come across when we're doing the permits, obviously one of the big ones I think gets everybody is the ESA issues. That's Endangered Species Act, and we deal with 2 agencies for that, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the National Marine Fisheries Service. Now, with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, we've developed effect determination keys. So that helps us get, expedite this process so we can go through this key, okay, if this, then go to B, if this, then go to C, if this, then go to D, and where we fall, then, okay, no further consultation required. This meets the key. We can move right on. We don't even have to call them. We're done. If we can get that into that effect determination key for manatee or wood stork, whatever we're dealing with, hallelujah, we're moving on. If we don't, and it hits a May effect, then we have to do consultation with Fish and Wildlife Service, and it might take a little bit longer. A lot of times in that situation too, it's just specific conditions, because we've done it enough, we kind of anticipate, okay, these are the conditions we're going to need to do, and we can inform the applicant, you guys, and you can talk to your client, can we do all this? Yep, okay, well then we'll send in a consultation letter asking for concurrence, that yes, they've already agreed to do these conservation measures, and that'll speed things along. It's the ones where we're trying to screaming, fighting, kicking that are going to take a lot longer. National Marine Fisheries Service, we have JAXBO, the Jacksonville Biological Opinion, which I'll get to in just a second in more depth. And that covers species such as the sea turtles, all the sea turtles, small-tooth sawfish, sturgeon, right whale, etc. So I want to throw that one in there. Personally, I've never seen a sawfish other than at SeaWorld in the tank as you go, you know. But, and I don't know, how many people have seen a sawfish out in the wild? Really? Okay, good. There's a big one. That was at Sebastian Inlet several years ago when they came swimming in. They caught it, tagged. That's, I think, FAU and Fish and Wildlife people, or NIPS people, I'm sorry, tagging it and measuring it and getting the information and sending it on its way. Came in the inlet, went back out the inlet. That was about the extent of it. So JAXBO, it's based on 10 minor activities. Primarily, I think we're going to deal with just the first 3, activities 1, 2, and 3, for shoreline stabilization, power supported structures, and the maintenance dredging. But it does provide concurrence if all the PDCs are met. And the PDCs, that's project design criteria. So we have these checklists, we have these conditions. If you can meet, they work. The Corp worked with the National Marine Fisheries Service for a couple years, on our second version, I believe now, where, okay, you meet this criteria, then you're good to go. We send those checklists in for them to track, and we move forward. Problem is, if we don't meet those criteria, then we'll have to, again, like with Fish and Wildlife Service, if you don't meet the key, you don't meet the PDCs, then we got to go into consultation, and that can take a while. How many have had to get a biological opinion from National Marine Fisheries Service? And you still have hair, so you haven't pulled it all out. You got double hands up. It's frustrating for me too, you know, because I'm trying to get permits out.
Why in man-made canals do we need a file?
Sorry, what was that?
Why in man-made canals do we need a file?
A biological opinion, well, you're dealing with the species itself. I mean, species can occur in a man-made canal as well, so, I mean, I don't write the rules, but when we're dealing with mobile species, they can go in lots of places. Now, and I don't know your specific situation, if it's where it is, if they're not really utilizing that area, or they are utilizing that area. We're looking at things on broad spectrum, trying to meet the criteria that was set forth. I've been fighting with National Marine Fisheries Service over another project, and it's almost going on 3 years, and just trying to get something. And it's not like we got problems, it's just getting through the process, have them write up my biological opinion. They keep changing it on me, and it gets frustrating. I know it's frustrating for me. It's got to be frustrating for you guys getting your permits and getting your jobs done. Yes, sir.
Real quick question, more broader. How can we participate in this writing of the biological opinion as an industry in this organization so that we can give input?
Okay, what was that again?
How can we participate as an industry when they're creating the biological opinion so we can give input to some of the things that they're coming up with?
The question is, how can the industry, I should be doing this. Hold on a second. Hello.
Thank you. My question was, how can we as an industry participate in the creation of these opinions so that we can give input to them, so when they're making these decisions, they hear from us first before they put a final decision out?
Well, I would say, I don't need that. I would say as these are coming out, input into the Corps, input into the National Marine Fisheries Service people, get a hold of them the best you can. I know we'll talk to you. We'll take your concerns and your input, and we'll put that into the mix. Because, I mean, for me personally, I think Boots on the Ground has a lot of information. Now, there's also the academic and scientific community that we're also a part of, that we have input to come in that maybe other people aren't privy to. So there's a lot of information out there to glean, and it's not like they're just, okay, this is what we think. This is what we think. I mean, they got some hard data for a lot of the information or a lot of the restrictions that we put out. And like I said, I'm lower down the totem pole on that for specifically answering that question. But so when JAXPO came out, I mean, it's good for all of our permits, all types, SPs to nationwides, GPs, and it was expected to cover 43,000 consultations to help move that along over the 5-year period that it's in play, and we're there in the middle of it, and it's doing that. I mean, we just were looking at the metrics the other day, and I was like, was it 3,000 GPs from last year that went through, and that was 1,000 increase from the previous year. So I mean, there's a lot in the Jacksonville district being done in that sense. So specifics about the shoreline stabilization: no more than 500 feet. New seawalls, covers new seawalls, covers replacement seawalls. Replacement seawalls need to be within 1.5 feet of the existing. Covers new materials like I talked about earlier, like riprap, articulating blocks, and such. Some of the PDCs, you get the backfill that's needed to stabilize that slope. It can't be any steeper than 2 to 1. There's more specific PDCs I'm sure that you come across for specific species in specific areas in critical habitat, like sawtooth down in Fort Myers area, or yeah. So here's an example. Oh, that's that little laser. Where's my big laser? There. That's a red mangrove where they were replacing. They were required to. I think it is. Might be a black, but mangrove anyways. That they're replacing. They had to hand place that rock material down there around the corner, around the roots. I think it is a black actually on that section. So pile supported structures, that's activity 2 under the JAXPO. That's just a dock, covers docks, piers, boatless, mooring pilings, dolphins, all that material, floating docks included. Other minor structures, some of the PDCs for that. You got to have the proper signage. If it's a public dock, like the right whale sign or the small tooth sawfish, or to go along with Fish and Wildlife's manatee signs, so you can have a whole kiosk of information out there on some of these. Aids to navigation, those kind of pilings that you put in, those will require Coast Guard concurrence to, let's see, that's good, we'll move on from that. So maintenance dredging, real simple. Don't do this down here. This is down in South America. They're clearing out mangroves, so don't get any ideas. We don't do a lot of that here. Doesn't cover hopper dredging. It's mainly maintenance dredging for existing canals, existing basins. And there could be limitations on there too on sediment quality as well when you get into that kind of stuff. It goes back to the previously permitted depth limits that were permitted through the Corps, and if there was no designation, then it's -7, and that includes the over-depth dredging. And again, yes, it's prohibited in the small tooth exclusion zones and coral critical habitat and Johnson's critical habitat. So lots of other PDCs. JAXPO, I know, can be quite confusing. There's a lot of stuff in there. And if you want, contact us. I mean, it's on the source book, if you've been there, to download the entire JAXPO and has all the PDCs. We have them broken out. I can send them as PDFs for, like, if you just want the PDCs for Activity 1 or Activity 3 or whatever. Make it easier so you're not rifling through a 300-page document. You can just get those PDCs, and I also got the checklist broken out. And I'll be happy to share those with you. Like I said, everything is available on the source book. Let's see, other interesting things about JAXPO. Well, you got to follow the noise protection guidelines, the PDCs for mangrove, seagrass, and corals, and like right whale, educational signage. That's been kicking out. Oh, that's SPGP. I'll get to that in a minute. For Jaxpo, there's no after-the-fact permitting. So if it's already in, we can't use Jaxpo. So that kind of limits us to when things have already gone in.
Is there any after-the-fact permitting? Is there any after-the-fact permitting?
Is there any after-the-fact permitting? Yes, there is. I mean, we do have after-the-fact permitting. A lot of times, we'll have to do formal consultation on it if it is. I mean, that's the one project I have that NIMS has had for like 3 years is that situation.
They won't consult on after the fact.
No, but they're trying to give me a BO, and that might be part of the problem that's taken so long is I had a municipality that after the hurricanes jumped the gun, went ahead and built these piers. We built them. They were existing piers. So they said, we can just put them back. That's what the person that was working for them said, you don't need any permits. It's all emergency from the storm, which this was a year and a half after the storm, because this was damage from Matthew, not Irma. It got re-impacted in Irma, but then they went ahead and built anyways. It's a convoluted, so to say the least. See, I was going to have mine go off just for fun because I have Indiana Jones on mine, but I was but it probably would have too, and it would have been my son asking fantasy football questions. But anyways, yeah. So it does happen. We do have to go through. It's not very often.
Is there any daylight at the end of that tunnel?
There is. You have to have hope. You always have to have hope, even in the face of adversity. Say, for whatever reason, going down this path, learning a lesson, whatever. And, I just talked to them again, and they're like, well, we're rewriting it because we've got new information now. Yes, you got new information because you're taking so long to get to this point. And so, anyways, it'll be better for it, but I know what's going to happen. All the conditions that I've already got written are going to be what we have to concur with. So it's just them actually putting in the BO. Yeah.
Can I comment on that real quick? As far as after the fact permitting for the Jaxpo, that's just to point out that we can't use the biological opinion for after the fact permits. So we can still the Corp can still issue after the fact permits, we just won't be able to utilize the Jaxpo in doing so, because that opinion won't cover after the fact work.
Right. Hence why we might have to use formal consultation at that point.
So I got a comment on that.
Yeah.
So wouldn't that kind of be similar to what we're dealing with the DEP? That if they can't operate out of that, we just go straight to the floor instead?
Are you referring to the SPGP?
Correct.
Where something falls out of the SPGP
Yeah.
and then that doesn't qualify for federal review, you have to come to the court to receive a permit. And in an after the fact scenario?
Well, no, just to take the after the fact part.
Okay.
But like, there's a misconception with some marine contractors that if it's not in the JASPA, they just can't do it. But in fact, with the DEP SPGP scenario, but in fact, you just have to go to the Corps direct and get a permit through the Corps. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
So the
Like boathouse groups, I'm sorry.
right, yeah. The Jacksonville biological opinion is an agreement between two federal agencies, that being NOAA, National Marine Fisheries, and the Corps of Engineers. The state currently does not administer that biological opinion, and so if they have, and it's not, I don't think it's they're allowed to issue under that opinion even through the SPGP. And so if there's something that would require concurrence through JAXPO, the state does not have the authority to issue under that opinion, which will turn that applicant back to the Corps. So we can use the JAXPO to issue our federal review.
Thank you.
So, which kind of segue into seagrass and submerged aquatic vegetation. I just tried to make it funny here. taking that from Survivor. This is actually Johnson seagrass, a picture of it, if you haven't seen it or had to deal with it before. On the submerged aquatics, if you are in an area, I know this is going to be a touchy one too, but if you are in an area where there's known seagrasses, get out ahead of it and get your seagrass survey ahead of time, because we do have a short window. The Corps' window is different than the state's window, and our window is June 1st through September 30th. It's a 4-month period. And so if you're in that area, if you know you're going to have seagrass issues, go ahead and get a survey done, because if you're outside the window, then you're just going to be sitting and waiting to get that done. So we have a key that we run down, and some of the questions we ask are: does the survey comply with the survey guidelines? Is it a valid survey? What's the project? Is it a pile-supported structure? Does it meet any of the criteria with the spacing or the height above mean high, graded decking and such, which is part of meeting the construction guidelines? Does it have Johnson's? Is that going to throw us into another set of PDC, another set of criteria, I should say? And then does it qualify for JAXPO at all? So I'm assuming everybody's had to deal a little bit with seagrasses somewhere along the line. And do you have any questions you want to throw out there about seagrass? Yes, sir. I'm just going to leave you the mic.
I don't mind asking, sorry. So, we were doing some research on this growing season and trying to figure out how to navigate. And we found online with a satellite service that we can still get imaging within the period. And you pay an extra premium for that, but it might be important enough to do so. And we found that we're actually getting that accepted, where we can prove that there are no grasses. If there is grass, and we have to prove what kind, we're having a little bit of gray area there, but for very open, clear, want to build something that's outside the grass bed guidelines and want to prove that, we found that that's working for us. Does that sound?
And where have you been successful? In the Panhandle?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. We haven't, in our ALR, we haven't utilized that yet. But see, we also, we're real quick to address that. In our ALR too, we've had the huge brown tides and I mean huge acreages of die-off, and it's not really set in stone yet. Are they going to come back in that area? They're not going to come back in that area. So in that sense, the visual, just the aerial, it's hard. You know, you can't see the root mass, right. You know, or the stubs that are coming back, as opposed to a full-leafed plant. So I don't know. It's something to discuss further. Yes, sir.
If you have seagrass, does the 4 foot above mean low have to be at the top of the grass or the bottom of the grass?
No, it should be from grade to the top of the deck, I believe, right?
The high water line.
The mean high water line.
Yeah, mean high water line to where 5.
Oh, no, yeah. No, it's from the mean high water line to 5 foot.
4 feet above what?
You have to be 5 feet above the mean high water line
Right,
to the top
right.
of your decking.
But what about if the seagrass is 1 foot long?
We don't care. It's just that whatever is above the mean high water elevation.
So
It has nothing to do with the bottom or the top of the seagrass.
What about the dimension that has something to do with the seagrass as opposed to what height it should be at mean low?
That might be for scouring. I don't know. It has nothing to do with the dock construction guidelines.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
The state is typically the one that really
Well, as we were just talking about, some of the restrictions, if you do have seagrasses, it's 5 foot above the mean high water line. Terminal platforms, if you have grading, you can go up to 160 square foot. If you don't have grading, you're using the wood planks with the half-inch spacing, then you got to stick with the 120 square foot. All this has to do with light penetration for the plant's survival. You are allowed, this is per the dock construction guidelines, you are allowed a 3-foot wide step down on the end of the terminal platform for loading, unloading vessels. An uncovered boat lift. You talked about the gaps, and the light transmitting materials, whatever kind of decking, grading that you're using, has to meet that 43% open space. Actually, I've got that handout. I've got, if you want, you got dock construction guidelines, questions and answers, the dock examples, and something I'm going to get into in a little bit here is the setback, channel setback, frequently asked questions. If you would like to grab one, they're all up front here. So let's talk about SPGP. The State Programmatic General Permit, we are on version 5, revision 1, which just went into effect in, well, not just, but went into effect in December of 2018. There was a lot of changes in that started kicking stuff out. We saw, and that's what this last fiscal year, we saw a huge jump in our project load that DEP, the state, is kicking stuff out. If you're within 11 nautical miles of an inlet, which puts a big, I've gone through and put these big circles on the inlets, you are in the area that's right whale educational signage. So that kicks out. Now, what do we add to that? We add a nice handout to the permit that informs the applicant about right whales and avoiding right whales and vessel strikes and such. Also, if you're within 300 feet of the federal channel, we were getting a lot of, at a time, we were getting some SPGPs that were issued where the docks were closer, they were in the setbacks, and then so we had to deal with that, and we were getting more of that, and we needed to, so we asked the state to, okay, we need to look, because that needs to come from us, we need to run it through Navigation Division. So the end result was now anything within 300 feet of the channel gets kicked out and comes to us. Also, new seawalls, if they have to be under 150 feet, and they have to be hardened at either end, tying into existing seawalls. If they're freestanding new seawalls or riprap, then they're kicking back to us on that as well. So a lot of different things, and there might be others. Are you guys running into other stuff that's in other areas of the state where the different state offices are kicking stuff out for something different? Okay, well, good. So what we've been telling people, if you know you're going to get kicked out, if you're in that area, go ahead and submit to us. You submit to the state, you submit to us at the same time, try and get that permit so we can get it rolling. We can meet our stuff with Jacksboro and that, we can turn around about pretty quick. At least the cocoa section does. Well, any other discussion on SPGP? I know that was Kelly had said that was going to be a big topic, but what kind of questions do you guys have about that? Not that many. Okay. So I covered it that great. I doubt. I'm coming. Yes, sir.
This has to do with the SPGP and the seagrass survey timeline. I believe the SPGP 5R1 expires in 2 or 3 years because it was revised midway through the 5-year period.
Right, it runs from 2017 to 2022.
2022, okay.
And then we'll have to renew the SPGP. The SPGP is like our general permits, like the SAJ 20, the 33, even the nationwide permits, they all run on 5-year cycles. So they're good for 5 years. Like the nationwides came in 17, they're good till 22. The SAJ 20 came in 18, runs till 23. And when we hit that 5-year, usually before they expire, about a year before they expire, we're already working on the renewals. So when this gets to, in 2021, we'll be looking at the renewal for this, updating. So yeah, if you got comments, the seagrasses, on the small tooth sawfish, on sea turtles or whatever, get the information into us now so we can start putting that on the shelf for when those guys get ready to hire up work on that.
So yeah, that's what I wanted to add as a comment. The seagrass growing season being a 4-month window seems to apply only to certain areas of the state. That 4-month is a proper window. Southern portions of the state, maybe the west coast where you don't have Johnson seagrass, I think a 5 or 6 month window is more appropriate. And comes from a lot of people I've spoken with too that do seagrass surveys. So we'd like to add comments on that. So we're wondering how do we give you the information?
Well, I'll tell you that. When we go to, when it's time for renewal, a public notice will go out. Now, if you are not on the public notice list and you want to, you go onto our website, and I believe it's at the bottom of you go to the public notice page. Once you get to the public notice page, you can actually contact the webmaster and get signed up for receiving public notices. And at a certain time when we get close, that public notice will go out that we're opening up for comment. So that's the time to comment. And usually it's a 30-day period. So don't dilly-dally either. Yes, sir?
And that also segues into this gentleman's question over here about where contractors and private stakeholders can input on these programmatic keys that we're working with other agencies. Please sign up to be on the public notice mailing list. So when you receive these public notices for large programmatic instruments that you can weigh in and comment on, and then not just for the Corp, a lot of these agencies, like for JAXPOs, work through NOAA, and so contact them as well, because a lot of those are dictated to us from our sister agencies, instead of just being done all in-house with the Corps of Engineers. So.
Yeah, and we do, and we take care, and we look at all the comments. When the notice just went out on the clean water rule out of headquarters, they got 800,000 comments in, and I don't know how many months they've been spent, and they have a whole team around the nation they've pulled in to go through these comments and lump them into categories. A lot of them are all the same, but they lump them into the categories so they can look at what are people's concerns. And then we do the same thing with these programmatics. So, yes, your voice is powerful, but we need to hear it, and anything you have to support that. Data is important, so we can get the data in there. That even helps you even more. I mean, other than just saying, I think it should be longer because I can't get enough docks built, and that's not going to fly as much as if you have some evidence, some concrete.
I got more on the SPGP.
I keep blinding myself every time I walk.
These questions I'm asking are more from just navigating, because when this new biological opinion came out, and we've been working through the DEP flawlessly, and we were getting all of our approvals, and it was qualifying for SPGP nonstop, and all of a sudden,
it had to get messed up.
right, we had all these contracts out, 6-8 months worth of contracts, and boom, all of a sudden, all the things we told them, and this is not a complaint, I'm trying to just navigate. We had to go back and explain to these clients what's going on, but we didn't really have a clear understanding of what was going on, and it was really hard for us to tackle that. And then the clients kind of were looking at us like, you don't know what you're doing, and that's part of their question earlier. If we could be involved, know it's coming and see it coming, we can thwart a lot of that. Having said that, going forward in the navigation part, there's still some confusion on how to navigate on some of this, and it's almost like if there was a monthly workshop I could even attend, I would do that, because I want to be clear on what I'm explaining to the clients, to the other contractors, and so forth. I'll give you an example. We're just now starting to understand that you can have a boathouse, you just can't do it through SPGP, you have to go to the Corps. But when this all started, it was you can't have boathouses anymore. Those are gone. You can't have a covered slip. Well, that's not the case. If you have an open area where there's no grass, you can still have it. It's just that the DEP is not going to give it to you. You got to go through the Corps. But there's a lot of little things like that, I think, in this. And if we just could have a way of just keep educating ourselves with a workshop or something, that'd be awesome.
No, that's excellent idea. And I think that's really the key to a lot of this and a lot of our problems, I mean, ours included, because, it comes to us and it's like, oh, hey, where's this come from? Now we've got to wade through it. You're asking us questions and not right now, but, when it first comes out, we're getting used to it as well.
And the DEP was.
And the DEP is,
The Corps and us all kind of.
and there's been a lot of turnover. I don't know what it is in the water right now, but there's been a lot of turnover at the state and all the state departments and the Corps as well. And so you got new people coming in, new people that don't have that 20 years of, here, this is how this is going. You got somebody new, and it's like, wait a minute, and that's maybe how they see it.
Problem for us contractors.
And that's something that's distinctly not the contractor's fault. But so it's difficult.
I went and hired a guy to do all my permitting because I can't keep up with them. And like he just said, you talking to a customer and you look like a dummy.
Right.
Well, I can't answer that. I don't know. They changed that, they changed that, and then also pretty much split up over what, last year or so.
Yeah, the joint permit process, yeah.
It's hard for us.
But what else depends, we hear also, just from the people we've talked to over the years, that even they're frustrated because they've had people in, even in the DEP office that has done, water and permitting for 20 years, and then now they're doing air or vice versa, and you're like, we're still learning too, so.
Well, and
The frustration's everywhere.
And what I found with the new SPGP is, I don't think that they're issuing very many of them. I don't know whether they're frustrated with the SPGP process, because they're mandated to issue permits lickety-split. And they don't want to come to the Corps and say, well, does this fit, does that fit? They're just going ahead and issuing their permit and saying it doesn't apply to the SPGP. So I think that there might be some of that going on as well, but the new SPGP definitely limits what they can issue for us. So I'm not getting as many questions like from the folks down in Fort Pierce DEP as I had been before this new SPGP. In a way, if I were a contractor, I'd assume I had to get a Corps permit and just be done with it, and not waste your time. Just go ahead and send us the application.
I think that's the opinion of the North area is DEP from, just talking to people over the years, is that they're like, you know what, we're not doing any, we're putting our stamp on what we can put it on, you're going to have to go to the Corps and see them for their permit. Whether they really, it's like they've almost stated there's really nothing they can issue for the Corps anymore.
It certainly seems it's getting that way. And like I said earlier, you've seen it on our workload. I mean, just this last, it's only been 9 months. We've already seen an over 1,000 project increase just in GP, just in general permits.
And that's not fair to them either in a way but at the same time,
John,
it's almost as if there is I know this sounds kind of elementary, but it's almost like a war between the two of them at some points. It's like they wanted it, they got it, so they're going to have to issue. I mean, that's the attitude, and it's even among the two agencies, and it's frustrating for us because, we don't care who does it, we just want it done.
Yeah.
Right.
For customer.
I hear
Not
you.
have to do it twice if we don't have to.
And like John said, is there any way that if you three could figure out a way that we do workshops in different areas at least once or twice a year for us contractors?
Well, I think that's, we can step up our outreach. We're processing permits even more, so it's hard to, time is very sensitive in trying to find that time. But if it's going to help you guys, then we can do some more outreach events and keep you more up to date. Maybe have some more, newsletter, something like that to go out to, with more contact with you guys.
So this may be a silly question. If the DEP isn't willing to issue an SPGP on something, but the Corp feels like it does the Corp have a fast track for that they can, if we go straight to the Corp and it's SPGP, is it move faster in the Corp side, or is it still kind of like the process, date stamp and so forth?
Well, even with SPGP, they still have to look at the same criteria. It's just they were issuing for us as that programmatic. So it's still meeting the same criteria. So, we're pretty fast.
It's almost like if the Corps had one person that just did SPGP permits and got really good at it, you know, then I would just go to them and forget that whole DEP process. I'm wishful thinking.
I think so, because we're down people as it is and trying to get permits done. We work as fast as we can, you know.
If you see a permit application and it has everything, plus, just fill out everything and send it to you, what would you react? How would you react?
I say, thank you for sending me everything I need, and
Well, plus 10 things you don't need.
it's all right. I mean, more information's, but, I mean, unless it's like a 1,000-page report of stuff that I don't have to read, but, I mean, no, I think what you're saying, if you...
This is going back and forth, this is making us crazy.
I would imagine. That's why, I mean, I love to have pre-apps. Gets more time, again, it's all time, you know, time consuming, but if we can have more of those kind of meetings, so this is what you need, or even better, you know, which I'm going to get to in a little bit here, the items that you need for a complete application, get us this and we'll move forward, but...
It's different, it seems to be different on applications. We're in the keys.
And different offices are going to, I mean, we have the standard, but when you get into different offices or different locations, you have different criteria you have to submit and different things you have to meet. So yeah, it can get, I would suggest just trying to meet with your core people and try and streamline the best you can on what what do you need? Help me help you so you can get this out quicker.
All right, thank you.
I think we beat that one to death. Now we're on time. Navigation. Anybody deal with navigational issues? Yes, being close to the channel, in the channel. I hope you're not in the channel. But hey, I had a guy who wanted to put, he was close to the channel. Now, I mean, where's my eye? His uplands were in the 100-foot setback. So he needed to go at least up to the 38-foot just to get to like -2 feet. And he had, it was like a 60-foot tuna boat. I need to put my boat right in there. I'm like, okay, well, so I said, you can't go any closer. This is it. You know, we went through nav. I said, if you need the water depths, there's no submerged aquatics. This is up in northern Volusia County. No seagrasses, no oysters, no nothing. And it's right there on the channel. I said, just dredge it out. So that's what we permitted. DEP kicked them back, said, oh, no dredging. You need to go out another 20 feet. Well, I would put it almost in the channel. And it's like, and he was like, oh no, DEP said I have to go out there. And I said, the first barge that comes through is taking your tuna boat with it down the river, you know, and it's like, so it was a battle back and forth. Finally, we got it approved. DEP backed off and we got it, because it became a safety concern. So a lot of times that's what this is all about the safety, safe navigation. So if you're near or in the setbacks, I mean, it obviously, as you can see here, it can be approved. We have to get it through navigation and typically, you're not going to get any closer than the 62.5. That's typically where we are, and that's only, you know, if you absolutely have to, like when your uplands are in the 100-foot setback or so. You got a question?
When you have a conflict like that, do you have a protocol for solving it with DEP?
When we have a conflict like that, is there a protocol? Is it on still?
Yes.
Oh, good. Basically, that's okay. No. It's case-by-case basis. I mean, to me, I mean, I've been doing this 12 years and it's only happened to me once where they but I mean, I'm sure it happens elsewhere too, and it just depends on the criteria, and then you got to, again, DEP, a lot of turnover. You don't have the people with the experience to come to a better decision, or maybe it's from their higher ups. Oh, heck no, we're not working with the Corps on this. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. I'm not sure. It depends on the office we're in and the set of criteria that are for that project. I mean, so we went through several, well, put the boat on the side, or they were, get it, well, okay, you don't have as deep a water, do you want it, I would want my boat on the side, not out in the front where any boat coming down the intercoastal might run into it and be better protected. So we ended up, that's what we ended up with. And they ended up allowing minor dredging, just enough to get that boat in and out. Once the applicant had to go do the survey, a submerged aquatic, to show there wasn't any resources, full bathymetrics on what were the elevations in that area, the composition of the soil. It was all silt and muck, so it was an easy, still benthic community, but they were able to prove there's really nothing there, and so DEP backed off. But yeah, as far as our protocol, no, it's just case by case. If you're in this area, you're going to need your XYs, the state plane coordinate system, and so get if you know you're close, go ahead and get them. I'd say if you're not just in, but even close. And if you don't know, you can ask, like I have people call me, you guys call me if you need to know, because we have this layer. We can't get that out to the public, but we have that layer. It's just an approximate layer. It's not the actual surveyed channel, but it's pretty close that we've been given, so that we can utilize for, do I need to go get my XYs? And I say, if you're within 20 feet of the 100-foot setback, that's close, pretty close, then yes, you need the XY so we can get the exact survey location. If you're 300 feet from the channel, I'm not going to make you get your XYs. I don't hope nobody else is making you get those for that. Like these guys down here, I don't need the XYs. They're far enough away from the channel. These guys, yeah, they got a problem. Now let's say you're in the setback. Now you have to get a consent to easement from real estate. Anybody had to get a consent to easement?
I have a question about that. A fellow contractor couldn't make it, wanted me to ask about this. Who is the applicant responsible for contacting the real estate division, or is that something that your office does?
Nice segue to my next slide. Perfect.
Well, to add on to that, he says that he has the real estate office has had a consent, what is it called?
Consent easement?
Consent easement since June of 2018, and he doesn't have it yet. He says it's hard to get stuff from him.
Read the bottom.
Okay. His times, I expect a long way, okay.
Yeah. Yes, so this is the scenario. I'll just run through this real quick. Real estate deals with our right-of-way. 5 more? Okay, I'll be quick. The right-of-way is not necessarily just where the setback is. This map shows that same thing. So here, these guys are out of the setback, but they were, almost all of them were in the right-of-way. Because in a lot of areas where we have spoil islands nearby or something, that the right-of-way is a lot larger than where just the setback is. In a lot of places it is just where the setback is. In other places, I've got one up near Ponce Inlet that's like 700 feet wide going through there. So all those need consent to easements. So what we do is real estate won't move until we issue a permit. So we issue a permit with a condition, special condition says you've got to get a consent to easement. So then we send that, we'll initiate coordination with them, and we'll send that up to real estate. And we copy the applicant, and then it's on you guys to follow up with that, because once we've done our part, we've issued our permit, it's in the condition, now it's up to you to get your consent to easement. And they are short-funded, they are understaffed, just like a lot of us in the Corps, and it just takes time. And time. And time. So, so sometimes it might behoove you to move out of the right-of-way, and if you can accomplish your dock a little shorter, it may not be as long as you like, but you don't have to wait to build it either. You can have it tomorrow as opposed to a year from now. It's your preference. So, I got to speed up. All right. Well, complete application it's just, I mean, for, basic, again, like I said, there might be specifics in other offices, but for us, we want a plan view, we want a location map, we want a cross-section that shows, the pertinent information, your square footage. I love this little box I've got up in here, you can't really read it, but it's got the number of piles, what size are the piles, how they're being put in, the square footage of the dock, nicely, because that's all the stuff I'm going to need to put in my NIMS checklist to send off. So some offices might ask you, if you want to speed things up, fill out, ask for those checklists. You can fill them out ahead of time, send them in to us, and we can just check them, make sure they're right. It's not really that hard to fill them out, so I mean, if you've got it on the drawing, helps us out considerably. And other things you might need to send in is like the seagrass survey or your XY coordinate survey, stuff like that. Everything you can get into that package up front, less we have to ask for. I would love not to ask for anything, and say, this is perfect. And and it happens on a regular basis. I got guys that do a fantastic job. Sat down, met with them, here we go, this is what I need. Every application comes in like that. And I can turn them around pretty quick. So some of the challenges.
Can you make a perfect application available for
a perfect? No, I can do a good. I have examples. I have examples that I send out, and I can send that out to you. This is the checklist. This is the stuff we need on this. And here's an example of drawings of exhibits that work. They work for me. Everything goes. I don't have like a seagrass or a perfect seagrass or anything like that attached to it, but it's just mainly the exhibits and the application filled out or whatever. So, yeah, like I said. We'll pass the emails around or get with Kelly and you can get to us and we can get that out to you. So these are some things follow through. Some of the special conditions. I love this dock here. He got his turbidity barrier up, but it's just at the end of the dock. Not really doing a whole heck of a lot of good there. This one is shore to shore and doing just what it's supposed to be. It's all chocolate milk in here and nice and clear out there. I mean, that's, no gaps. I think one of the earlier ones I had on there had double turbidity barriers, but it had big gaps in it. And I was like, well, we're still not getting there. And leaving strings or stuff attached, you can get entanglement issues. Yeah, I like this one with the turbidity barrier up there and all the supplies right there. And so this guy, that's how I imagine many of you feel waiting for your Corps permit or consent to easement or everything we're going on here. But there is hope. There's always hope, and there's, we're getting stuff done. So this is another one that happened up in our AOR. Even though we permitted it properly, had a buoy chain and anchor system, approved, went through NIMS and everything. This is actually what got built, just a short chain on a boat anchor and then 60 feet of rope. And that poor dolphin and it was a looped rope on top of that, got tangled up in it and drowned. And so the first thing NIMS does is they call me, did you permit this? I'm like, yeah, I permitted that. And I said them that, and I said, that's what I permitted. And so anyways, long story short, just the more we can do to be protective of our environment, following our conditions, it's good for everybody. So, last chance for questions, because I think they're wrapping me up.
Since a new Trump administration, have you noticed any changes with your agency?
Even less budget than before.
That is, I will say, is above my pay grade, and I will not delve into any political issues. And it's like,
have permits sped up or slowed down?
I would say not really. I mean, what we contribute the increase in the general permits is because of the SPGP stuff going on, not necessarily because of policy changes up the mountain there. But really, yeah, we're pretty consistent with our project load. I mean, funding's always an issue. It doesn't matter who's in office,
So the permits are free? The permits are free?
Permits, yeah, this is your tax dollars at work. I mean, if you get a standard permit, it's $100 fee, not an application fee, but at the end, when you get your permit, you don't have to pay for it at the end if you actually get your permit. Send that in with a signed copy of your standard permit. And that's it. I mean, all nationwides, GPs, that's all free.
So it seems like if funding's an issue, I don't think many contractors would have an issue with an additional fee if it would speed up the process to pay for your shortfall in funding.
I've had that question come up before, and it's not an easy answer because it's different pies from what I understand on where that money goes in, where our money comes, especially for us because we're Department of Defense. So we're out of a defense budget as opposed to other kinds of budgets, and it's not an easy answer. But yeah, I've had several people say, hey, we'd be willing to pay if it would help. Anything to add to that, Chief?
I don't know if there may be an opportunity to fund a position. You know, like the FP&L has funded a couple of positions so that they could expedite their permits. I think that there was talk about that in the past.
In most municipalities, the building department isn't tax funded. It's funded by the fees that you pay to get that all done. So why would this be any different?
It goes directly to the Treasury. When we get that $100, it goes to the Treasury. We have no idea where it goes to. It does not go to regulatory or the Corps of Engineers directly. So.
Like I said, it's
To provide some more context, the regulatory budget across the entire United States has been a flat budget for the last 7 years at about $200 million. And that budget is dictated through Congress, and a flat budget, with including inflation and everything, is usually a declining budget. So that's where we stand right now. There is work up in headquarters and DC about changing that. But, you know, we'll see.
Until it happens, it's status quo.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Well, thank you for enduring my talking and all your questions. Your input is greatly appreciated.
We really appreciate y'all coming out, though. It's a great help for our membership.
One last thing before parting. I've got a couple points here that were questions that were either raised during the discussion or points that were brought up to my attention or the chief's position. If you have any other concerns, I'm keeping a running list of concerns, questions, or comments that I want to take a flagpole and get answers to. So if you have any of those, come see me. I'll add it to the list. And then if I can provide an answer in the short term, I'd be more than happy to do so while we're here for the next few minutes. Thank you.
So
Thanks, Corey.
Wednesday,